All right, we got another episode of Steve Lags Unfiltered. I have a truly incredible individual I'm going to introduce to you today. This individual is a motivational speaker, an author, a business coach, and a former NBA player. I've got Walter Bond here today. Let's get going.
And now, introducing your host, Steve Lags.
What's up, Walter?
Hey, Steve, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great, buddy. So, this is the first time that I actually met you here today.
Yep.
We had a little bit of a conversation. I'm already getting to learn so much about you. It's really interesting. So, tell me a little bit about your journey for how you go, first of all, NBA player to get to that point, and now take that NBA career and you convert that into, okay, you become an author, you become a motivational speaker. Now you're advising businesses. How does that, let's walk through that journey a little bit, because there's so much gold in that journey, that in so much wisdom and so many lessons that people can learn from.
The first question, the first response I have is really my background.
Yeah.
My parents were teachers.
Right.
So everyone in my family teaches. Mm-hmm. My oldest brother is a preacher. Okay. Right. And my wife comes from an entrepreneurial family. So if you kind of put that all in the pot, you get a motivational speaker, because part of it is teaching, part of it is like preaching, and a lot of it is just being entrepreneurial. Right. But the basketball part of it was the beginning. And of course, I wanted to be an NBA star and have a long career. But what I realized, that was not my purpose. My purpose is to coach, consult, and inspire people to become the best version of themselves, whether it's an individual or an organization. Yeah. And my journey to the NBA was just research. Right. I had to learn how to become elite. And the one lesson I learned was when I got cut. It's one thing to make it to the NBA, whole nother ball game to have longevity. Right. And so I learned what to do to get there, but I learned what not to do to stay. Mm-hmm. And the biggest mistake I probably made in my basketball career is that once I made it and achieved that initial goal, to recalibrate. Mm-hmm. And so in all of our coaching programs, we always tell our clients to recalibrate. You made $1 million this year, good for you. Right. All right, that was this year. Right. Next year, recalibrate. Maybe we should do 1.5 or 2 million, whatever your number is. The number doesn't matter, but in professional environments, you always have to recalibrate, because if you've been doing something for a whole year, you should be able to be bigger, stronger, and faster the next year and more effective. And so probably the journey to the NBA was the research. Getting cut out the NBA was a painful lesson of how to stay elite. Right. And so now we teach our clients how to become elite and how to stay elite. And I give credit to my basketball experience for that.
Yeah, that's great. We were talking earlier about growing up and the role your parents had with your mindset about what was possible. And also we talked about leadership and how that applies to parenting children, and we start early. So talk to me a little bit about that, where the lessons we can learn about how we encourage our children, and how that's also equally important with our employees or people we're leading. How do you convince somebody or support them with the right type of communication and the right type of mindset that you need to have with somebody that you're influencing that might have these huge goals to, be an NBA star? Because what's the typical parent say when a child says, "I want to play in the NFL, the NBA, or an ML, I want to be a Major League Baseball player"? What's the typical response?
Don't get your hopes up. Yeah. Where my parents were a little bit different. They were like, get your hopes up. Right. But, I give my parents a lot of credit. I grew up in a home that was educated. My dad was a high school principal. My mom was a teacher. And so our culture was very balanced. Mm-hmm. It was like, hey, good game, how's school? Mm. You know what I mean? Hey, good game, but go upstairs and go do your homework, right? And so I grew up in a home where they encouraged sports, but education was always number one. Okay. Because they were teachers, and their attitude was, even if you play pro ball, you still need to be educated, because you're going to live the rest of your life. And, my journey to becoming who I am today had some ups and downs. I was not a great student early on. I'm the youngest in my family, and I had a very successful sports family. My uncle played Major League Baseball. My sister won 2 national championships at the University of Southern California. My dad's in the Hall of Fame. And so for me growing up, and they claim I was the best athlete in the family. So for me growing up at a young age, seeing all this success around me, it was easy for me to lose focus academically, because I'm the best in the family. We got a bunch of successful successful. I had aunts who were first team All-State in Tennessee, 3 decades ago, maybe more than that. But at any rate, I didn't focus academically, and I flunked out of my first high school. And it was a top academic school, but still I failed.
Right.
And I ended up transferring to my dad's high school in Chicago, and he became my principal. And
that you're going to do well.
Yeah, but it was an awesome experience because for 2 years, I'm basically getting coached on the way to school every day.
Okay.
And then I'm the principal's son, right? And so there's a lot of pressure on me to perform, not only athletically, now it's pressure for me to perform academically because my dad is the principal and I didn't want him to be embarrassed. I didn't want to be a weak link to the family. And that 2-year experience really taught me the importance of coaching, the importance of mentorship. And to your point, whether you're a parent or a boss, it's the same thing. Your job is to recruit, develop, and retain.
Yes.
And as a family, they didn't recruit me; they just had me.
Different type of recruiting.
The other responsibilities was there to develop me,
right,
and to make sure that I stayed connected to the family, and ultimately adhere to the family culture,
right,
which was academics first and sports second. Right. So that 2-year experience really showed me how important coaching and mentorship is. My dad worked on my mindset. It really convinced me that, hey, man, you're smart.
Right.
And that was the whole 2-year process because I had resigned myself to just being an athlete. And my dad was like, wait a minute, you're smart though. Right? You don't have to just be an athlete. And he would just say that for 2 years. And eventually he convinced me that I was smart. And now I'm a thought leader. I sit on corporate boards. And so as a leader, a lot of times people need you to pull their specialness out of them.
Right.
A lot of times leaders are very critical. One of my big messages on stage is that leaders either walk around with the whistle or a machete. Unfortunately, the machete is a little bit more popular than the whistle.
Right.
And that's what coaches walk around with whistles. So until I was like 31, 32, I was in the sports industry my whole life. I saw my leaders as coaches.
Yes.
Who walked around with whistles. When I got into the business world and started coaching and consulting and speaking at conferences, I didn't see a lot of coaching.
Right.
I saw a lot of machetes. I saw a lot of critical attitudes toward employees. Oh, he doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. Oh, he's an idiot. He's a junior executive. And all these leaders trying to build culture. And they wonder why they had high turnover.
They weren't believing in their people? Is that what you're saying, like dismissing them? When you say machete, can you help us understand
It's
that?
been critical.
Okay.
Like a fruit inspector.
Okay.
Right? This kid has it. This kid doesn't.
Okay.
And if you really think about a coach's job is to help the people on their team reach their potential.
Right.
And that's what I was used to. And so now, when I saw that void in the business market, now I teach leaders how to become better coaches,
right,
better communicators, how to build confidence, how to build rapport. And we've created a formula to help leaders become better coaches. And the first phase of any coach is to build confidence and rapport with their teammate. Because a lot of leaders don't build confidence, they don't build rapport, and they go right into correcting.
Right.
And if you don't build confidence, you don't build rapport, it sounds like criticism.
Yes.
And that kid goes home, it's like, oh, my boss hates me.
Right.
Why? Because, I got chewed out today. I got corrected today. Versus, man, my coach believes in me. My coach spends time with me. He gave me some feedback on what I can improve, but it's awesome. And that's the difference in apathy or not. Yeah. That's the difference in turnover or not. So honestly, when we can help companies culture transform into a training and development organization where all the leaders are coaches, it's transformational. It's explosive.
Right.
Companies with the coaching culture are about 21% more productive.
Yes.
And so many of the issues that business leaders have, it's their fault because they're not coaches. And they just think like, I'm a leader, either you have it or you don't. I'm going to put you on a pip and bop, bop, bop and say, look, the average demographic of any company is an average performer.
Right.
Of course, you're going to recruit a couple of stud salesmen or a couple of stud leaders. Who doesn't want a stud or a studette?
Yes.
But your largest demographic of any company is the average professional. When I go and speak, there's awards programs and recognition, and they call the same names. Mm-hmm. But meanwhile, if you look at the audience, there's a whole lot of people sitting out there that didn't get their name called.
Yes.
And to me, a leader's legacy are those people.
Yes.
And they want to hang their hat on these couple of stars that they recruited who came ready.
Right.
And just kind of had it all together from the jump. Instead of saying, if I'm going to be a great leader, I got to think like a coach. And my legacy is not just selecting some studs. My legacy is based on what can I do with my average performance.
First of all, this is awesome. I have a million questions because so much of what you're articulating here is so aligned with what we talk about here in this show. So when you talk about building rapport, so, all right, that's about basically, in other words, it's building a relationship with the people that you lead, right?
Right.
And where do you think that starts? Like, I talk about having genuine curiosity and caring about the people you lead. Like, how does a leader actually build rapport and so that you establish that trust and respect where now you know, like, hey, they're telling me this because they're sharing this feedback because they really care about me. Like, what do you do? Like, from Walter's philosophies, how do you start that?
You know, it's a heart issue. You know, I mean, if you really think about it, a great leader doesn't lead from the head all the time; they lead from the heart.
Exactly.
And you got to really care about people. You know, if you are very judgmental and kind of make quick calls,
yes,
that's like void of your heart is void of love. Right. And all you're looking for are performers that make you look good.
Yes.
Instead of saying, you know what, I can either focus on what's wrong with you or I can focus on what's right with you. Mm-hmm. And the greatest leaders focus on what's right with you and they get to work. You know, they teach you fundamentals. They build your confidence. They reinforce you. You know, the diversity of my company, our clients love it because we're versatile. We can come in and do a high-level executive program. We can do something for your middle management. And sometimes we go all the way down to the street. Right. You know, people in your warehouse missing teeth and driving forklifts, that kind of thing. Right. But that versatility is really giving us education as to what really goes on inside of a large company. And the truth is, most level employees who are below managers always tell me the same thing. The only time I hear from my boss is when I screw up. Mm-hmm. Now, how disheartening is that? Like, I can do a bunch of things right, but the moment I make a mistake, the moment I show some human error, my boss is all over me. Right. You know, you're asking for someone to quit or disengage or have low engagement instead of saying, let me reinforce what you do right. Mm-hmm. But when a moment arises where I need to correct, it's taken in the right context. Right. Because you've told me 7 things I'm doing right, and then one thing I might need to correct, it's not a big deal. That's but if I only hear what I'm doing wrong, and you don't say anything about what I'm doing right, eventually that person gets discouraged, frustrated, angry, and we call it quietly quitting. Yes. Right? They disengage and they forget to tell you. Right. And they could be on your payroll for 6 months, a year. Right. And why? If payroll is your biggest expense, why not have a highly motivated, highly engaged team? And what's more important for the leader to do? Right. Like, you know, think about it. If your biggest expense is payroll, what's more important throughout your day than to make sure you have 600, 300, 10, however big your company is, highly engaged, highly connected teammates that are going to war with you every single day? That's the smart leader. Yes.
And you talked about, having a machete versus a whistle. And if I'm hearing you right, you can correct me if I'm hearing this correctly. So when you're coaching someone, you want to basically assess where they're at. It's not good or bad. Right? This is where this player is at. Right. And now it's my responsibility to develop their skills. Right. And I'm going to take them from point A and I'm going to bring them to point B, then to point C. But wherever they're at, I just need to make an assessment, like a player assessment, right? Okay, this is their skill level, and now it's my response. And I can see this bigger version of them. They might not even know it exists. Right. But how do I develop this person as opposed to just, oh, this is wrong, that's wrong, and forget about this person. Well, then why are they even on the team if you're not even, why you have them on the team if you don't believe in them?
Well, we're a little different because everyone pays attention to skill set. Right. The first thing we focus on is mindset.
Okay, there you go. Well, I always say that's a skill.
Well, I mean, you think about it. People always ask people, how are you doing? The question should be, how are you thinking? Average person has about 70,000 thoughts a day, right? And 70% are negative. Let's be honest, we all have crazy thoughts. Right. They just random. They pop in your head. And most of us can talk ourselves out of it and rationalize and get back to a good state. But sometimes, if I'm having 70,000 thoughts a day, right, and 70% are negative, we're all literally in a war. Right. Right? And so as a leader, I need to respect that my people have the ability to go off track mentally, And if you're off track mentally, your attitude is bad, your thought process is bad, your engagement is poor. So the first thing we do is work on the mindset.
Okay.
We have a program called the shark mindset.
Yeah.
Sharks are the apex predators in the ocean because of how they move. And so successful people aren't always the most talented.
That's right.
Successful people just move differently than everybody else. And a lot of it has to do with how they think. I was an average athlete who made it to the NBA, right? Of course, you had guys with 40-inch verticals and big hands and long, arms and incredible physically gifted players. But a lot of players make it who are average physically, but their mind is sharp. They have ultimate confidence. They have a high IQ. They know how to play the game. So the first thing we do to really help position someone to reach their potential is to work on the mindset. Right. And our Shark Mindset program is designed to really help them improve their operating system.
Right.
So, for example, sharks never stop moving forward.
Right.
If you want to be successful, you have to be relentless. You have to be resilient. And so a person can be talented, but if they're not resilient, if they're not relentless, if they don't have extreme levels of confidence, it doesn't matter. I've played against athletes who are more talented than me, but they might have lacked confidence. They might have been a little timid. They might have lost confidence easy. Who knows? So I could outperform a better athlete, not because they was gifted physically, because I could beat them mentally. So the mindset to me is the most important element of a person's operating system that needs to be nurtured and developed first.
So I have a question, Walter. So if I'm a leader and I want to assess the mindset of someone I'm leading so I know how to develop them, like what should I be looking for? How do I do that?
Intelligence can be measured a bunch of different ways.
Right.
And I would measure social intelligence, emotional intelligence, academic intelligence, and they all play a role. So for example, you could have someone who's a great engineer, but with horrible social skills. You know what I mean? And they might be a poor communicator, or they might be socially awkward. So you have to be able to assess the full person.
Yes.
And for example, growing up, my mom always taught us to be likable. Just always be likable, get along with people.
Right.
And it was just something, okay, Mom. Later on, I'm like, oh my God, how powerful is that?
Yeah.
You have a lot of people who are talented, intelligent, but people don't like them.
Right.
So who cares that you're smart and intelligent? In every room you go into, people like jerk.
It's arrogant.
Right? Nobody likes this guy. So who cares how smart he is or how capable he is? He doesn't fit here because he has poor social skills and doesn't like people. So I would measure the whole package. Is this person intelligent academically, meaning can this person do what we need them to do in their role? But what's their social IQ?
Right.
Do they have good social acumen? Can they get along with people? Do they fit here socially? But also their attitude. Attitude goes a long way as well. When they come across adversity, how do they respond? Do they point fingers? Do they blame? Are they accountable? We're so dynamic as humans that great leaders can look at the total person and say, you know what? I got to have them on my team.
Right.
So when I left basketball, I would do job interviews. And some of these HR people would say, Walter, we like you, but we're looking for someone more qualified or someone with more experience. And I would think to myself, wait a minute. I became one of the best basketball players in the world. Who in the hell is going to walk through this door that you can find more experience than that? Right. But they were trained to look at this resume and whatever the paper said, they went with it, right? I need 2 years of sales experience. And they let me walk through the door, and now I'm a corporate board member and thought leader. And it really taught me the limitations a lot of companies put on even their selection process. And so I'm able to have strong opinions when I get in front of companies when they're recruiting and their development process and how they build their culture based on my own personal experience.
Right.
I'm an athlete by nature, and so we got in the weight room. Right. We did training and development.
Right.
Most companies don't even have a training department.
Right.
Yes. And I'm like, how do you expect your people to reach their potential when you don't even invest in their training and development?
That's right. Do you believe that all people, like everyone should have some type of coach or mentor in their life at different stages in their life?
Absolutely.
And you do. And so I can see this a little bit. So, and why is that so important? So what if somebody's, hey, I'm a 35-year-old guy or girl, and I have a particular job in life, and I really don't have a mentor or coach. but this is not for me. This doesn't fit in. Like, what would you say to that person? Because there's a lot of people like that.
Steve, people violate success principles all the time.
Okay.
And they just don't know it. The one thing I learned on my way to the NBA, and I don't know what camera I should look in, I want this to be clear, it's impossible to reach your potential without a coach.
Okay.
Absolutely impossible. I'm 55 years old, Hall of Fame motivational speaker, but I still have a business coach.
Yes.
I also have a personal trainer.
Yes.
Just lost 40 pounds. And my son said, Dad, you play in the NBA, you don't need a trainer. Oh, yes, I do. He was like, why? Accountability.
Right.
My trainer meets me every morning at 7 a.m. All I have to do is show up.
Right.
And I have an appointment.
Right.
And that alone makes sure I get it done.
And you're paying for that appointment, so you're going to show up, and your word is that you're going to be there, and you're an accountable person, right?
And he's an expert trainer.
Right.
And so we isolate muscle groups.
Right.
Some days are leg days, some days are upper body days. And I hate my leg days. I told you
Yes,
that
that's
earlier.
right. Yeah.
Tomorrow I think we're going to work shoulders. And so I don't have to worry about it. I just do what he tells me to do. And all of a sudden I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, you look good. If I'd have done it on my own, I probably might have been a little inconsistent. I travel a lot. That extra accountability, the extra expertise, I hire it done. And here I am, 40 pounds lighter. I'm like, dude, I'm locked in.
Yes.
My business coach, he pushes me. He's teaching me things. I'm drinking from a water hose.
Right.
And so to anyone listening, literally, we have coaches our whole lives. And then we get grown and want to do it on our own.
Right.
It is impossible to reach your potential without a coach. And most people are operating less than their best version of themselves because they want to do it all on their own. You can go to Home Depot and do all your repairs on your own in your house.
Right.
Or you can come hire a pro to remodel your kitchen or to put your floor down or hang your drywall, which is going to look better.
Yeah.
You doing it yourself or a pro coming in there, and it might cost you a little bit more, but at the end of the day, your house is going to be better and it's going to be worth more.
Yeah.
Because a pro helped you do it. They got done right, they got done faster, and it's going to stand the test of time. It's impossible to reach your potential without a coach.
And when you say, what's that experience like when you're reaching your full potential or you're chasing your full potential? Like, some people hear that and it just doesn't sound, well, what does that really mean? And I just don't think that everyone appreciates what that experience really is like in life when you're on that journey.
Steve, that's a great question. And I do think that's the gap. Because if you've never experienced yourself doing things you didn't even know you were capable of,
right,
you can't relate to what I'm saying. So, for example, I watched some of my NBA highlights, and I'm like, wow. I have a highlight where I dunked on a guy named Clarence Weatherspoon.
Yes.
I wasn't a guy who could dunk on people,
right,
but I was under such great conditioning coaches, and I was in such great shape. I was getting pushed to my limit, to my max. I started doing things I didn't even know I was capable of. It got to the point where if I'm wide open, I don't miss a shot. And that was all through years of development. 15 years it took me to become a pro. And toward the end of my career, my college coach would tell us this: by the time you really learn how to play basketball, by the time you really master it, you're going to be too old.
Right.
And he said that to me. It didn't make sense, but you stay under this training. A big part of our coaching program is immersion. Truly being immersed in something. And I was immersed in basketball for 15 years at a high level. And to become the pinnacle, to play in the NBA, to grab that jersey was something that you can never take away from me.
Right.
And it all happened because I was immersed and I was surrounded not by good coaches, but great coaches. So the average person who can't relate to what I'm saying, it's because they just think, this is who I am, and this is my lot in life. And say, no. This is the natural version of you.
Right.
But if you get a coach teaching you how to communicate better, if you get a coach teaching you how to sell better, teaching you how to lead better, really teaching you the fundamentals of business until you master them, and all of a sudden you're looking around like, oh my God, I never thought I'd have a private plane.
Right.
I never thought I'd have a yacht. I never thought that I'd be living in a neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood with 6 billionaires.
Right.
Because as soon as basketball ended, I got a business coach.
Yes.
And now Bernie Marcus is my neighbor.
Nice.
One of the largest hedge fund guys, Ed Cooperman, 6 billionaires is in my neighborhood. And I had a 10-year delay to get into business. All my peers got right into business. I played basketball for 10 years. But when I got out the NBA, I hired a business coach, and all of a sudden pretty much passed all my friends by and my whole age group by. And now I'm living in a multi-million-dollar neighborhood, and I give my credit to the coaches.
and you invested in yourself.
Absolutely.
Now, see, a lot of business owners don't have the humility to go get a business coach because they think, okay, I'm the king of this mountain. No, I'm going to do it my way. You know, I don't want to be told what to do. I want to be able to. I want to be able to take total credit for this. What do you say to those business owners? Because we both work with those business owners. And the most successful ones and the ones that are having the most impact with their team and their company are getting outside advice and coaching. What do you say to the ones that are resistant to that?
But there's a reason why big companies include a coaching package into their executive hires, because executive coaching is the fastest rising segment of training and development.
Right.
You know, I'll answer it this way. I keynoted Planet Fitness, and I've done a bunch of different health club brands, and they all will tell you the same thing. January 1st, their membership is still growing.
Yes.
They set records January 1st.
Yes.
Because a lot of well-meaning people, hey, I'm going to get in shape this year. By March 1st, they're back to their normal numbers.
Yeah, and those of us who go all year long get aggravated that it's so busy those first couple of months because we know they're not going to last.
Every treadmill's taken.
Yes.
Every bench is taken. And you guys got to wait them out.
That's right.
And 2 months later, 8 weeks later, it's back to the normal numbers.
Right.
You're much more likely to hit your physical goals if you have a personal trainer than if you just do it on your own.
Right.
I mean, we can give a million different examples
Right.
as to the benefit of investing in a coach.
Yes.
You know, even the greatest movies of all time, Karate Kid had Mr. Miyagi, right? Rocky had Mickey in his corner.
Yes.
You know, you can go on and on. Every great person is connected to a great coach.
Right.
We can talk about sports. Tom Brady's connected to Bill Belichick.
Right.
Michael Jordan's connected to Phil Jackson. I was at a business meeting in Detroit, Michigan. I was a guest of Jersey Mike Subs and their founder, Peter Cancro. And we had a business meeting with Tom Monahan, the founder of Domino's. And my wife and I are looking around like, how did we get in this room? This is incredible.
Yeah.
It's 6 of us. Me and my wife, Tom Monahan, Peter Cancro, and his wife, Tatiana. It was 5 of us, actually. And I'm sitting there like, this is unbelievable. And Peter Cancro, the founder of Jersey Mike's, who's a billionaire in his own right, is sitting with Tom Monahan and asking him questions.
Right.
How can I do a better job with my franchisees? What was the keys to Domino's? And I'm sitting there like, this is a billionaire sitting at the feet of Tom Monahan being mentored.
Yes.
It's impossible to reach your potential without some kind of coach or an advisor. They save you time, they save you money, and they make sure you get to where you want to be.
Right.
You know, and what's better than that? So if your vision is 3 million, your coach will help you get there.
Right.
If your vision is 1 billion, whatever your goal is, if you have the aptitude and the ability and the opportunity to get there, a coach or an advisor is a no-brainer because it's almost impossible to get there without it. Now, some people just have to naturally have it, which is rare. For the most part, we all have coaches and we all have mentors if you want to be elite. If you want to be average, do it yourself.
That's right.
Go to Home Depot. DIY.
Yes.
But if you want to be elite, if you want to be great, you got to have coaches pushing you to your max.
Now, for those that are coaching or being coached, is it the job and responsibility of the coach to always be likable?
No.
And there may be times where, like, when you're training, you're like, I effing hate this trainer right now. What he's doing to me right now is bullshit. Like, but so that experience, because sometimes leaders struggle with wanting to be the friend and not be like, okay, hey, I've got to develop them. And sometimes I'm going to deliver a message that might not be well received, or they might not want to hear this right now. And also, if I'm being coached, or if you're coaching me right now, you might tell me something that, like, oh man, that's going to hurt a little bit. Like, he really he hit me where I'm not doing a good job there, or I'm not being disciplined enough.
You know, a great coach, you're going to have a love-hate relationship with. Why? Because they're going to push you beyond your comfort zone.
Right.
Now, sometimes they might piss you off because they're a jerk. That's different.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
But a coach is really concerned with you becoming the best version of you. They're going to push you past your comfort zone.
But
and that's frustrating. That's scary.
Yeah.
That's because you're comfortable.
All right, but why would so if I'm being coached, why is there value for you to push me outside of my comfort zone? Like, okay, so if I'm an individual that's being led by you and you're coaching me, but I want to be comfortable. What if I have that mindset? Like what's the opportunity there?
Well, one thing a coach can't do is to bring effort on your behalf. Mm-hmm. That's like your only job. Like if you're willing to bring the effort and if you trust your coach, you'll submit to their leadership style and you'll get your result.
Right.
Now, if you have trust issues or you're just fighting to stay the same, a good coach won't work.
Right.
And I'll give you, my business coaches, it speaks for themselves.
Yes.
A high school kid with a 2.1 GPA, now is a thought leader. I'm thankful to all my coaches.
Right.
My college basketball coach, man, I used to be so mad at him, man. I hated his guts.
Yeah.
Literally.
Right.
Because I was laid back, I was easygoing, I was a little overweight, and I didn't know it at the time. I'm just being me, right? And he pushed me through all of that, and I made it to the NBA, and when I left the University of Minnesota, he said, hey, son, you should be a motivational speaker. Man, I go to say thank you to him once a year, and I'm an emotional wreck because he clearly pushed me through my comfort zone. He saw things inside of me I didn't even know I possessed. And outside of my dad, there's not a human being on this earth that had a bigger impact.
Right.
And I drive all the way to Kentucky in the middle of nowhere just to say thank you. And there was moments I hated his guts because he was so hard on us. He pushed us. But his whole goal was to make me the best version of me. And so a great coach, a great leader sees your potential and they drive you until you get there. And they're not going to always be your friend. They're not always going to be your buddy. It's not going to always be pleasant. But that's not the coach's job to be your friend.
Right.
A coach's job is to help you become the best version of you. We saw in the Super Bowl, a tight end from Kansas City, Kelsey, literally went up and chest bumped Andy Reid on the sideline. I mean, the passion and the pursuit of excellence and being great is intense. Now, he felt horrible after it was over, but man, they are both going for a Super Bowl, and your emotions get involved.
Yeah.
And that's what great leadership's. That's what they do. They get you bought in.
Right.
They get you caring. They get you to the brink of being the best version of yourself. And if a leader can't do that, I question how good of a leader they are.
Right.
And a great leader has the ability, everyone on that team, everyone on payroll is going to become the best version of themselves. And that leader knows that's their job.
So growth really begins outside your comfort zone.
Yes.
Right. And that's what you're saying. And that's awesome. And, when that happened with Kelsey and Andy Reid, you could see Andy Reid's response was so calm because you could tell they have such a relationship that they understood each other so well in that moment that to them it wasn't a big deal. I'm sure, Kelsey had some regret afterwards, but that's just because he cares. But in that moment, you could tell the rapport they had. It was not a big deal for them. It was just them being them.
And that's relationship. And, one thing I really share with my clients is what the locker room is all about.
Right.
And I wish I had time to teach today what the locker room really is. The fans, we see everything on the field.
Right.
But sometimes we have no clue what happens in the locker room. Mm-hmm. When you're in that locker room, man, you don't just become teammates, you become brothers.
Right.
You become family. So Andy Reid completely knows Kelsey.
Yes.
And Kelsey completely knows Andy Reid. And they know each other's heart. They know each other's passion. They don't just like each other. They love each other and respect each other. So in those moments of friction, it's taken in the right context because iron sharpens iron, which means you're going to have some friction.
Right.
So if you're having friction with a coworker or a boss, as long as your heart is in the right place, as long as we're both, pursuing excellence, it's fine.
Right.
But if we have friction because I don't want to be pushed,
right,
or we're having friction because I don't believe in the vision,
right,
or we're having friction because I think you're an idiot, now that's a different ballgame.
Right.
But when you have two people, regardless of their role on the team, because I believe in delayering organization. Mm-hmm. When you're in that field, Andy Reid and Kelsey, they're both trying to win a Super Bowl. Right. So that I'm the coach and you're the tight end, but we're delayed right now because we're both at war together. Mm-hmm. And so when you delayer an organization as a leader, it creates a safe zone for everybody. We know you're the boss. We know you make more money. We know you got the big office. You don't have to keep reminding me of that. Mm-hmm. When we go to work, we're on the same team. And we're going to war together, and we're trying to win and win big together. Those are kind of locker rooms you want to be a part of. But when it's about your ego and a hierarchy, and, I can't believe you did that to me in front of everybody, and nobody can apologize, and you're going to hold a vendetta, and you're going to get me back. I talk about winners, losers, and champions. When I teach that to my clients, they're blown away. Yeah. Because some of the characteristics of a losing organization is present and a winning organization. And most teams or companies vacillate between those two organizations. Characteristics of a winning organization and characteristics of a losing organization. And if they have too many things that are intertwined, you're stuck.
Right.
A championship organization operates different.
Right.
They have every characteristic of a winning organization, but a little bit more.
Right.
And I don't have time to teach a little bit more, but the Kansas City Chiefs are a championship organization who can overcome friction,
right?
Who can overcome an argument, who can overcome a fight. It's not a big deal. Why? Because we're champions.
Right.
Winners and sometimes losers, a disagreement or a fight can derail that company forever.
Yeah. So I love this. So I learned when you're leading people, if you have alignment and it's properly placed, an outburst from an employee is not necessarily a negative experience. That might be just them like so passionate about it, or they're just breaking through and they're getting emotional about it. You know, they're growing through like a break point personally. Like that's something to not make it about you right away.
Right.
Like, hey, it's not about, like Andy Reid didn't make, he disrespected me in the middle of the game and I'm cutting him from the team. You know, it wasn't about that. They're aligned.
Right.
They understand each other. And that outburst is just, you know, where other people who, you know, don't think about it deeply, oh my God, I can't believe that happened on the sideline. How could he tolerate that from him? But it's just much more deeper than that. This is not a player that's like, you got to put me in the game, and they've never, you know, they've been dropping the passes all season long, and they're bitching and moaning about like what do you think they're entitled to.
I mean, don't you want your players to care?
Oh, yeah, they care so much. I want them to care so much they bump me in the chest. Right. I want the people in my company to care so much that I get a chest bump about the sales not being high enough, or like we're not getting enough leads, and I get a chest. I'm going to be like, mother, this is awesome. This is what I want.
That's what you get in the locker room.
Yeah.
And honestly,
how do you create that in corporations? Because, you know, in the locker room, you've got like these fiercely competitive people. And we talked about earlier, you know, you don't have that elite level of, you know, you're bringing all the elites in a locker room, right? In the professional locker room. You're not bringing all the elites in a business, because if you need hundreds of people, that's really impossible to do. How do you duplicate that?
But let me say this though. There's different levels on the NFL team.
That's true.
There's different levels on the NBA
fan.
team.
I know that very well, right?
I mean, you have your superstars, right? And then you have your stars.
Your role players.
And then you have your role players.
That's right.
So that's always present inside of any organization. But it doesn't matter.
Yes.
When we're out here competing, we're all teammates.
Right.
We're all equal. And we're all out here trying to win and win big.
Right.
To answer your question, and again, I share this in depth when I'm doing client events. There's characteristics of winners, there's characteristics of losers, and there's characteristics of champions. Mm-hmm. So in order to build that type of locker room, champions, what separates them from winners, they possess everything a winner has, with the exception of an audacious goal.
Right.
There's so many companies and organizations out here who don't have audacious goals. They don't know how to set audacious goals. They don't know the importance of goals. We just did a whole workshop on audacious goals for a bunch of business leaders on how to set it. And so that's the only way I was able to make it to the NBA. I had this goal when I was 9.
Right.
When I was 16 years old, I told my dad, I'm going to make more money in business than I did in sports. So I had 2 amazing audacious goals before I was even an adult that I'm living by now.
Right.
So that's the difference to me of anyone becoming truly elite and kind of breaking out the pack. It begins with an audacious goal. So, for example, some companies can say, hey, you know, let's just go work hard. Right. And we'll figure out what happens. Yeah. And we'll have meetings, but we're not really, there's no North Star here.
Right, right.
Versus some companies say, hey, man, look, the goal is $2 billion this year.
Right.
I know that last year we did $500 million, but this year we're projecting $2 billion. And all of a sudden it's like, ooh, $2 billion. Oh, shoot. Okay. All right. Oh, my. So everybody in this room got to be better.
Right.
Everyone in this room has to be more productive. We don't have a lot of room for any dead weight. Why? Because the North Star is so big. We all understand it's going to take every last person in this room, from the CEO all the way down to the janitor.
Right.
We need everyone's full effort in order to hit this audacious goal. And so we have to teach business leaders how to create, set, communicate audacious goals, because a lot of times they don't know how, and they're frustrated that they're not making progress. They're frustrated that they don't have apathy. They care care, but they can't seem to get their employees to care. And really, you don't know how to build a locker room.
Right.
That audacious goal communicated by the leader and get buy-in from everyone takes skill. And if you don't know how to set an audacious goal, if you don't know how to build what we call shared fate, where everyone buys in and they have an all-in attitude, Andy Reid knows how to do it.
Yeah, he sure does.
Right? Phil Jackson knew how to do it.
Absolutely.
Nick Saban knows how to do it. All the great coaches in sports, they know how to build an audacious goal and get everyone to buy in. We're bringing that same attitude to our corporate clients. You have to know how to build an audacious goal, but you have to be skilled to get everyone to buy in. Most business leaders don't know how to do it.
Right.
They know how to operate themselves.
Right.
But your success is not based on how you move and how you operate. You need to get 200 people, 300 people, 1,000 people, sometimes 8,000 people to buy into your audacious goal.
Right.
But also have an all-in mentality, and it's tough to do, especially if you don't know how to do it.
It's awesome. So good.
And that's where coaching comes in.
Right.
You know, and we've been with Jersey Mike Subs, for example, for 8 years. And on national stage 8 years ago, in front of everyone, I said, man, we're going to kick Subway's butt.
Right.
And they all looked around like, what did he say? You guys heard me. Kingdoms rise and fall all the time.
That's right.
We've heard of Blockbuster. We've heard of BlackBerry. We've heard of Radio Shack, right?
Yes.
Kingdoms rise and fall all the time in sports, in society. Where's the Roman Empire?
Right.
Right? Where's the Ottoman Empire? Kingdoms rise and fall all the time in business.
That's right.
And so the only way we can build a kingdom and sustain a kingdom, we have to know the fundamentals of it. Man, here we are 8 years later. Jersey Mike's might be the hottest brand in the business. About 300 new stores a year. The brand is on fire because 8 years ago, obviously they did a whole lot of things right.
Yes.
But that one statement on stage gave them permission to go and be the champ. That's all they needed.
Yeah.
Right. And that audacious goal alone unified the entire brand, and now they're on a mission.
And it's all about going all in, right? You talked about this earlier about being fully immersed. It's about being obsessed with accomplishing that goal. And when you talked about the coaches, their goal, the audacious goal, is championship. It's to be the best. And now with Andy Reid, it's what they want to do, three-peat, right? Or is it three? They did two in a row.
They won 3 out of the last 5 years,
Yes.
something crazy like that.
They did 2 in a row, and they'd be the first NFL team to three-peat. So that
Let me say this though, Stephen. You would think that every NFL coach has the same mentality, and they don't.
Right.
Probably 60% of them just want to keep a job.
That's right. Exactly.
They're not even thinking about a championship.
Yeah.
I just want to keep a job.
Right.
And my first NBA team, I'm signing my contract. The player personnel director says, Walter, we're going to lose, and we're going to lose a lot. I could not believe what I just heard. An NBA executive was saying this as I'm signing my rookie contract. We're going to lose, and we're going to lose a lot. And I was like, I cannot believe he said it.
Yeah.
And we lost a lot. So just because you're in the NBA or NFL, just because you have a successful company, does not mean your leaders have the right attitude.
Yes.
It does not mean they have the right mentality. It does not mean that your company's in good hands. You know, a lot of companies thrive off of one person's personality or charisma. As soon as that person leaves, okay, sometimes it's a slow digression until the company loses its soul.
Right.
I've seen it over and over. So cultures are built on core values and not a person's charisma or personality.
Right.
And we see that a lot. You know, this whole company revolves around this one person, and as soon as they leave, the company falls apart. Smart companies have leaders and leadership, but they're governed by core values. And that's how cultures are transformed generationally.
Yes.
I don't think a culture is strong until it can pass from one generation to the next.
I would agree with that.
Right? So
Yes.
you look at something like Ford Motors, right? I give them credit.
Yeah.
Ford Motors been around for a long, long time. It got transformed from one generation to the next. And that should be the challenge of any leader right now, to build such a company, such a culture, such a locker room, that even when I step down, right, this company is going to thrive well beyond me because we built it that way.
Yes.
And a lot of leaders' egos and ability, I don't even think they think that way.
Right.
But who wouldn't want to build a company that can live on beyond them? Now, I get a quick, you want to make it and sell it for 10 multiples. I get that part.
Right.
But ultimately, you should want to build something that's going to be such a legacy.
Build it to last.
That your great-grandkids are going to say, man, I didn't meet my grandpa, but man, I heard all about him, or my grandma, or whoever, and I'm thankful that I'm working for the company now, and man, my great-grandfather built this, and this is incredible. That is, like, to me, building a company that lives on beyond you because you built it right.
Right.
That is the ultimate challenge I give to any business leader.
So awesome, Walter. Oh, man, I feel like blessed to meet you today.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. And
hey, how do we connect with you? Like, how do the listeners and the viewers connect with you? You have a couple amazing. You authored 4 books.
Yes.
We're talking about it. Like, let's talk about that first, okay?
Yeah.
Like, all right, you've got 4 books. Where do we start? I know they're all they're on Amazon. Where can we start?
Yeah, well, 2 of the books are hot right now.
Okay.
My publisher is so happy with us because they're really helping people, and as a result, all of our clients buy them in bulk. The first one is called Swim: How a Shark, Suckerfish, and Parasite Teach You Leadership, Mentorship, and Next Level Success. It's a parable.
Right.
I got coached by Mark Victor Hansen, a Chicken Soup for Your Soul. He heard me at a live event talking about sharks, suckerfish, and parasites, which really represent 3 kind of people. And any successful organization or any successful leader, you got to be in the people business. You have to be really, really good with people. And so the book Swim really teaches leadership and also personal development. And sharks, suckerfish, and parasites represents the 3 kind of people you have to be able to manage.
Okay.
So it's kind of a long story, but it's a great story. It's about this young kid who came from a troubled family, and he got into some trouble. Then he went to the Boys and Girls Club. I do training, and I've been on the board of the Boys and Girls Club. Meets a mentor at the Boys and Girls Club. And this mentor, coach, transformed his life. He falls in love with the mentor's daughter. They get married. He takes over the company and builds into this incredible company. But we really show through the book Swim how to manage people and how important training and development is.
Right.
And so Swim is flying off the shelves because the shark mindset is what we teach in the book Swim, and people love it. We have people sending us shark tattoos and shark necklaces. Our clients love it. We're building a shark mindset sales system right now because our sales clients love it. So the book Swim is our hottest book, and it's amazing. And our other book is Cultivate, the 6 non-negotiables of a winning team. And I wrote that book. I think ultimately it's going to overtake Swim because being a former NBA ball player, understanding team the way I do, I don't know if there's another thought leader, Hall of Fame motivational speaker who happened to play in the NBA.
Right.
Literally, I'm an expert on teams.
Yes.
And Cultivate is a great opportunity to start the process of teaching leaders how to cultivate their locker room and build not winning teams, but championship teams. And we call it Cultivate the 6 non-negotiables of a winning team.
Great.
And these 6 qualities are non-negotiable if you want to build a championship team.
Yes.
And if you don't know what these are, you're going to make mistakes and your locker room's not going to be right.
Right.
You know, in sports, I've been in some winning locker rooms. I've been in some bad locker rooms. In business, I see the same exact thing.
And can you walk in a winning locker room and a losing locker room and just for the first time and get the feel of that locker room?
Absolutely.
So you can just same thing with a business. You can walk in a business and know right away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Almost instantly.
You can feel it. You can read the room.
Almost instantly.
Yep.
And we've seen a couple of champion locker rooms in business.
Yes.
And so for me, it's the same exact thing. In sports, we call it the locker room. In business, we call it culture.
Yes.
And so the challenge I have for any leader, what culture have you cultivated?
Right.
Is it a losing culture that you cultivated? Is it a winning culture that you cultivated? Or are you building a champion culture that you cultivated? Ultimately, through the book Cultivate, it's a leader's responsibility and your leadership team all the way down to middle managers. Okay, we're a little bit different. We see leadership all the way down to middle managers, and here's why. Executives and boards are always going to offsites.
Right.
Well, we got to do an offsite, and we got a board retreat, and the board, and the leaders, and the board, and the leaders, and the boards, and the leaders. The truth is, you work out. The most important body part is your core. When you gain weight, where do you know it? Your core.
Yeah, that's
when you lose weight, where do you notice it? Your core. So one of my secrets and our company's secrets, and we have great coaches and consultants on our team, the first thing we look for to determine if your culture is strong, I don't want to talk to the executive because they're going to paint a picture.
Right.
I don't want to talk to the board.
Right.
Because they meet all the time and they got all the jargon down pat.
Right.
Let me sit down with your middle managers.
Right.
And they'll tell me everything I need to know on how strong your culture really is.
Right.
Most companies don't even invest in their middle managers. Most of them don't even spend time with their middle managers.
Right.
And the truth is, the human body, the things that will kill you don't happen in the head. Mm-hmm. They happen right here in the core.
Right.
Colon cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, testicular cancer, colon cancer are all core issues. Very rarely do you hear about brain cancer.
Right.
90% of what kills us happens at the core.
Yep.
Same thing is true for companies. 90% of what's going to kill you as a company doesn't happen with the board, doesn't happen with you, happens at your core.
Right.
And ultimately, the customer's experience is not based on the board. It's not based on the executives. The customer experience is based on what I experience from your managers on down.
Yes.
And that's where companies are dropping the ball big time, and they've never really thought about it.
Excellent. So much to learn from. So two great books, top selling books. And how else can we connect you? Social media, website, like what do you have?
We have all of that, but our website is two of them. One is walterbond.com.
Got it.
That's where people book me to be their keynote speaker. I love to open or close conferences with a bang. I put on a show.
Okay.
Right? I open or close conferences. Not to brag, I'm a Hall of Fame speaker. There's only 200 alive. Not many people can open or close a conference like I can. But peak performance huddle is different. Mm-hmm. That's not about charisma. It's not about personality. That's not a show. That's where me and my coaches and our consultants roll up our sleeves and we help people become the best version of themselves. So at one moment, people see me, being the entertaining keynote speaker. But when they hear me coach, it's a whole different Walter.
Yes.
Because that's where the real work is done. And it's just like game day. Keynote to me is game day. But man, getting to practice, getting in the weight room, and getting on the into the coaching sessions, that's where the real work is done. And we're helping clients with industry dominance and explosive growth, not through a keynote. That's the hello.
Yes.
But for 12 months of coaching, 12 months of consulting, 8 years with Jersey Mike's, having impact, that's where we see the results of explosive growth and industry dominance.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, appreciate it so much.
All right.
So good, guys. So good. So much information to learn here. Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave me some comments. Any questions that you have, we'll make sure we get them answered for you. And I'll even reconnect with Walter if there's any questions for him. And if you're listening to this, make sure you give the podcast a review. We'll see you on the next Steve Lags Unfiltered.
That's all for today's Steve Lags Unfiltered Journey. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to fuel your success journey. Also, be sure to listen to us on your favorite podcast channel or outlet. Stay tuned, stay unfiltered, and we'll catch you on the flip side.